going to push this down just a little bit because I'm very, very short. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I am so excited to talk to you today. I wanted to tell you what I did just this morning. So I was out in La Crosse this morning at 4 a.m. in the morning, -6 degrees, doing the point in time count. And what that is that community organizations and volunteers go out to see how many people of our citizenry are sleeping on the streets at night. And so I have volunteered to do this every year. I have been Lieutenant Governor because I'm the chair of the Interagency Council on Homelessness. And it reminds me of why we do the work that we do. And it reminds me that we have so much more work to do within Wisconsin when it's -6 degrees and we did find people who were sleeping outside at 4 a.m. So this is some of the reasons why I'm running for governor. So I just wanted to, I see many familiar faces in the room, but I wanted to give you a little bit of my background for those of you who don't know me. I am a born and raised Wisconsinite. My mom grew up on a dairy farm in Richland County, so rural that she went to a one-room schoolhouse through 8th grade. And she's not 120, she just turned 80 this year. Her mom was her teacher. That's how rural she grew up, right? Yes, does it sound familiar? I know. And see? And my dad, he served in the Navy during Vietnam, and then he came back to Wisconsin and he worked for Wisconsin Bell fixing telephones. We did not have a lot growing up, but service to community was non-negotiable in my house. My mom was my Girl Scout leader. My dad was the commander of his American Legion post. And I tried to take that with me into my adult life. And so after college, I joined the Peace Corps. I was a Peace Corps volunteer working on HIV/AIDS and reproductive health in Samoa in the South Pacific. And I am my daughter's Girl Scout leader, as well as we volunteer at the Humane Society walking dogs, and they actually have horses and goats, and we do the barn chores every Sunday night. So it reminds me of summers on the farm because we were expected to work. So I get to teach my daughter how to clean out stalls. So it's the honor of my life to be your lieutenant governor, but it was not my plan to run for office, and I'm honestly serious about that. I'm a nurse by background. I have done everything from doing overnight shifts within the emergency department all the way to being an executive within a large healthcare system and a vice president within a Fortune 100 company. I paid attention, I voted, but I really wasn't as involved. And I want to tell you how I started to get more involved. So it was 2015, 2016, when we first had Donald Trump come upon the scene. And at this point in time, my son, he was 8 or 9 years old, and he was in the kitchen and he was worried. And I could tell something was going around in his head. So I asked him, buddy, what's going on? And some of you may know, my husband is an immigrant from Mexico. He's a naturalized citizen. And my son says to me, what happens if Trump wins? Will he make Daddy go back to Mexico? Will he make me go back to Mexico? I know he doesn't like people who look like me. 8 years old. And it broke my heart that that man's words got into my child's head. And then in November, I had to wake him up and tell him he was safe, and tell him he belonged, and that nobody could make him leave his country. But I told myself I was never going to feel that way again, that I had not done enough to make sure that that man was not elected. And so I think quite literally the next day, I went to the Waukesha County Democratic Party and I said, put me to work. I will knock doors, I will make phone calls, I will donate. What do you need me to do? Put me to work. And that's what I did for a couple of years. And then 2019, I left my big executive job and I started my own business, and I went back to the Waukesha County Democrats and I said, got a little bit more time on my hands as I'm building my business. What do you need me to do? And what do you think those Waukesha Democrats told me to do? Run for office. And I said, that was not the question that I asked you. But there was this district in Waukesha County, I want to remind you, I live in Waukesha County, that the state party did not think would flip. But they thought with the right, so they weren't investing in it yet, with the right candidate, they felt like that district could flip. And so they asked me to think about running. And this was during COVID. And I had been an epidemic intelligence service officer with the Centers for Disease Control. I did national and international outbreak investigations. So I knew how dangerous it was, all the misinformation and disinformation coming out of our leaders. They hadn't met for 8 months. So I decided to run for office, and I was able to flip that district, 4-term incumbent from red to blue. Thank you. And I served in the assembly for 2 years. And then at the end of my 2 years, the Republican-led legislature, they redistricted. And I sort of joked, they put a little pin on my house, and then they drew it. The reddest district you have ever seen. I don't care if you walked on water. As a Democrat, you weren't going to win it. And so I said, okay, I guess I'm done. This was an honor, but I'm going to go back to my business. I'm going to go back to healthcare. And then Lieutenant Governor Barnes decided to run for Senate, and the lieutenant governor position became available. And those same little Waukesha County Democrats said to me, would you consider it? And I think I said no 3 or 4 times. You can ask them. I said no 3 or 4 times. But finally I thought about it. I was like, Governor Evers absolutely needs to win. We have got to make sure we keep this seat. So what do I bring to the table? I'm a nurse. It's a well-trusted profession. I live in Waukesha, which we're trying to be able to get more people into the Democratic Party. I speak Spanish. This is a community where we've been trying to do better outreach to, so I can speak directly to the community. All right. So I decided to run, and Governor Evers and I won with your help, by 3.5 percentage points, as he calls it, a landslide in the state of Wisconsin. And I have been so honored to serve with Governor Evers this entire time, especially with a hostile legislature. To watch his leadership, I have been taught so much by that man. But to be honest with you, I wasn't sure what I was going to do next. Was I going to run for office again? Was I going to go back to healthcare and my business? I wasn't quite sure. And then that man won again. And this time, nobody had to ask me what I was going to do. Nobody. If Governor Evers was going to run for a 3rd term, I was going to run with him as lieutenant governor. But if he chose not to, I was going to run for governor. Because we needed somebody who was going to stand tall and firm against the Trump administration. Yeah. And I am not afraid of that man. So here's what I know. Being the lieutenant governor, I have spent every year, I've gone to all 72 counties as lieutenant governor, every single one. Because I strongly believe that you can't lead if you don't listen. And this is what I have done every single year, and I often hear the same thing from folks. That they are doing everything right, 1 job, 2 jobs, and they're still feeling squeezed. Whether that is accessible, affordable health care. I've put out a proposal that we should have a public option in the state of Wisconsin to be able to reduce premiums for folks. Whether that is the cost of housing. That 8-year-old boy, he's 19 now. I know, I can hardly believe it. Supposedly he's an adult. I don't know how that happened. But anyway, I wanted to build a life here, have a family here. He's not going to be able to do that if he can't afford to live here. So my proposal is to have a statewide strategic plan that aligns legislation, administrative rules, and funding in the state of Wisconsin, and to be able to prioritize home ownership and to be able to build smaller, more affordable starter homes within the state. It just simply doesn't exist in the marketplace today. If we want to talk about childcare, if you can find it, is more than your mortgage or your rent. So my proposal is to make sure that any family pays no more than 7% of their income in childcare. Which I wish I had that. I had 2 kids under 5, both in childcare, and I don't even know how we did it. And I'm a nurse. Like, you make decent money as a nurse, but it is so expensive. And also, within this proposal, we want to make sure that childcare providers are paid at the minimum of $18 an hour. We have got to be able to do this. So if we want to talk about public schools, we have got to fully fund our public schools. Thank you. We continue to vote to raise our own taxes, not to pay for a new middle school, not to have a new science lab, quite literally to keep the doors open, the lights on, and to pay our teachers. That is unsustainable. We have got to change how we fund our public schools, and public dollars should go towards public education. Full stop. And if we want to talk about union bargaining rights within the state, we have got to restore union bargaining rights in the state of Wisconsin. We know when you have unionized workers, wages raise for all, whether or not you're unionized or not. So that will be a priority of mine as governor, to ensure that we raise those wages by making sure that people can unionize when they want to. And last but surely not least, thank you. We have to protect our environment in the state, not only for future generations, but for our tourism economy. We actually have a huge outdoor recreation tourism economy in this state, whether that is fishing, hunting, hiking, and all of the fun stuff everybody does on a lake over the summer. We have to make sure our streams and our rivers and our lakes are pristine so we can continue to build on that tourism economy. And I wish everybody felt the same about investing in Wisconsinites. But I think you've seen Donald Trump has endorsed Tom Tiffany. I'll say what Obama says. Don't boo, vote. He has said that tariffs are a good thing in Wisconsin. He has said that tariffs on beer are a good thing in Wisconsin. And I don't know where he lives, but this is Wisconsin. You don't talk about increasing the price of beer in Wisconsin, right? And his stance on reproductive health is so extreme, he's taken it off his website because he knows how unpopular that is. So this is why I am running for governor, because we have such an opportunity in 2026 to flip not only the state Senate, but the state assembly. We only have to flip 2 seats in the state Senate. 2 seats, that's it. Assembly, 5 seats. Harder, doable. And 4 of those were within a percentage point when Trump was on the ballot. So if we have a 5% swing, we have a trifecta in the state, and we can do it. But here's what you need as governor. You need somebody who's ready day one to get their agenda across the finish line, because we've only got 2 years to make a demonstrable difference in people's lives. If we do not show them what it looks like when Democrats govern versus when Republicans govern, they will flip that assembly right back to Republicans, because it will not matter. So my executive experience in private industry means that I can manage a large organization like the state, the government, and my relationships within the Assembly and the Senate holding elected office means that I have created some trust. We don't have the time to have somebody try to create those relationships to try to get that agenda across in 2 years. We just simply don't have the time. So here's what I know living in a red community. Again, I want to remind you that I live in Waukesha County. There is honestly so much more that unites us than divides us. It is, honestly, thank you. Neighbor helping neighbor, friend helping friend. That's the Wisconsin that I love, and I want to put my head down, get to work, and make people's lives just a little bit better in Wisconsin. So I hope you're with me. I hope you're with this campaign. I am excited to be here, and you're going to hear so much more from me constantly for a very long time. Apologies. But anyway, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me, and I am happy to take any questions you might have.
have one.
Yes.
Is it too early for any polling to indicate how you might be doing against the other candidates?
There's no... Oh, I'm sorry. I will repeat the question. Thank you for saying that. I always try to remember to do that. So he's asking if there's any early polling that shows how I might be doing within the electorate. So there's nothing that's really accurate right now that's come out. There was one super, super early poll that didn't have all the candidates in it. And that, like, 85% were undecided. So it was like basically a wash, right? We were all within the degree of error. There is going to be a Marquette poll that is coming out by the end of February. So I don't think it's in the field right now, but it should be either probably early in the field in February, and then it'll be out by the end of February. You guys are engaged, right? You guys are thinking about this. You're early. You're coming to these meetings. I will tell you the vast majority of the electorate doesn't start thinking about this race until probably July. So you're probably going to have a lot of people who are still undecided because they're not paying attention. We still have the Supreme Court race coming up, and we have to get through that one. Then people might a little bit more start paying attention. So most people do, if they do it by name ID, right? And so we do know that Mandela Barnes is going to have really high name ID because he ran for Senate. But we've got volunteers that are calling in to primary voters right now, consistent primary voters, inconsistent primary Democratic voters, and just trying to tell them a little bit more about me, more about my background, and why I'm the person who's the best candidate to make sure that we beat the Republican in November, because I don't want us to get complacent, folks. We are a swingy, fickle little swing state. We are. We go back and forth, and so we cannot take this for granted that the anger you're seeing right now and the swings you're seeing right now are going to be there in November. November is a lifetime in politics, so we are going to have to make sure we have the right candidate at the top of the ticket. And I think if we do, we're going to have some tailwinds for those Assembly and Senate candidates. People will be more excited to come out, more excited to be able to vote down ballot so that they can have the Assembly and Senate that they can work with.
So I'll go ahead.
Yeah,
So if people want to help you,
yes.
How can they volunteer?
Yep.
And do you have donation envelopes here today?
Always. Come now.
How best to help you?
I know. Okay, so Amy is here. Wave your hand, Amy. Amy's with my campaign. She can tell you how to volunteer. We're always having people sign up to volunteer. And then if you would like, it's right there. If you would like an envelope, I believe it's on the table over there. If you're interested, you can also go to my website, Google Sarah Rodriguez, Wisconsin. I won't spell it out. You'll find me. And you can always donate through the website as well if you choose to. I know it's tough times for people. Budgets are tight. I get that. We want to make sure that people can also contribute in other ways, like volunteering, and so we're happy to have people do that as well, because it does work and it is important. Unfortunately, I wish it were different, but money is one of the biggest predictors of who wins, right? Which is it's so frustrating, right? But that's the world we live in, and so that is some of the things that I continue to have to do, which is raise money, and we're doing very well in terms of that. The Democratic Lieutenant Governors Association has agreed to put in $2 million into the primary. Yep. Thank you. And I got the first statewide union endorsement. It was AFSCME, which are the state workers. And they had a lot of Democrats to choose from. And it's like they're picking their boss, right? It's the state municipal workers, and they chose me. So I was really proud of that endorsement, honestly, because I do want to make sure that we embody the values that we talk about, which is let's make sure we're honoring the union workers who work within the state, and that we have really good processes and policies to make sure that their voices are lifted up. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. First her and then you. Is that okay? Sorry, because she had her hand up for it. Go ahead.
So I live in Dane County, but in Cottage Grove, and so this was convenient for me to come.
Yeah.
And I'm a former educator, so your story resonated with me because the day after Trump's first election, I was teaching in Madison, and I had several immigrant children in tears because I was a bilingual Spanish teacher.
Yeah.
And your son.
Yeah.
Right? And
he was in a dual language program, and that's the thing.
And my husband is an immigrant from Mexico, and a naturalized American citizen. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
I want to compliment you on your starting video.
Oh,
the fact
thank
that
you.
you called Trump a maniac. like I never use that word, but that's really true. So in Dane County, we tend to have Democrats who are very purists.
Yeah.
And in my book club of 7 or 8 friends, probably everybody's picked out an early primary candidate.
Yeah.
I'm really supportive of a female
Yeah.
candidate winning for governor. And I remember going to a forum in Dane County in February when Governor Evers was running the first time, and I think there were 10 people on stage.
Yeah.
I didn't choose him.
Yeah.
I chose Kelda Roy.
Yeah.
She's my state senator.
Yeah.
And now I'm supporting you instead of Kelda Roy because I like your nursing background.
Thank you.
So how are you going to distinguish yourself in Dane County and Milwaukee
Yeah.
County, because you're competing with people with a lot of name recognition?
Yeah, mhm.
And I only caught a little bit of the Milwaukee debate.
Yeah.
So I'd like to know, how can you distinguish yourself among the progressive, the left of center, which I consider myself?
Yeah.
I grew up in Juneau County. I have family in Richland County.
There you go.
My mom taught in one country school, and she's 89.
I love her.
God bless her. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it took a lot of time, but
Yeah.
there are a lot of people like me, probably in this room and around the state.
Yeah.
So
So,
that would be my
so
question.
here, and I appreciate that, because I think what you're going to see within a lot of the primary candidates is that we're going to be shades of similar, right? And so you want to think about who is in the best position to win in November, and I would suggest that I am. So a couple of things that distinguish me from the rest of the primary field is I'm really the only one that has private industry executive experience and held elected office, right? Those two things are helpful, I think, to be able to run such a large organization as the state and to have those relationships. Secondly, I'm the only one who's been able to win in a tough race. Everybody else who's run for office comes from very deep blue areas, and they've never really had to run against a Republican. It's a different type of race to run. And so having somebody who knows how to be, in a difficult race. I was also the only primary candidate that put out a proactive statement about immigration coming into the state of Wisconsin. The only one. And that was before Alex Preddy was murdered. So I said that they should be unmasked, they should have clearly identifiable, they should wear body cameras, and they should not go into sensitive spaces like schools, like churches, like domestic violence shelters, personal homes, hospitals, courthouses, any state property without a judicial warrant. And you know what? I got a little bit of pushback from the governor on that. He did not agree with me on that statement. And I respect him immensely. I do, and I understand where he's coming from, but I completely disagree. We have to be proactive about this to protect Wisconsinites, and I'm the only one that did that. So if you're looking for somebody who's going to be progressive and fight, yet also be pragmatic, and to make sure we can actually get this stuff done, like get it across the finish line, I'm your candidate. Sorry.
Actually, the same question. Was the differentiation between you and the other candidate?
Yep, okay, well, good. Yep, that, I feel like I've answered that one. It was a different, I'm sorry, I forgot to repeat it, Mary Ellen. But now you can ask your question.
Anyone in mind for lieutenant governor?
So it's really interesting in Wisconsin is that lieutenant governor runs separately in the primary, and then you have a shotgun marriage for the general.
Oh dear.
I know.
Oh, no.
So the only one who is running right now for lieutenant governor that has really any semblance of winning is Sarah Godlewski. So you could have two Sarahs. Both women, which would be amazing, right? And by the way, I was going to say, with my nursing background, when I win, I will be the first nurse ever elected governor in the United States. Ever. Which just floors me, because it's like there's so many of us, right? And we're all so like committed to our community, but I just don't think healthcare providers don't always think about running for office. So yeah. Go ahead.
I was excited to hear that you were a Peace Corps volunteer in the South Pacific.
Yeah.
I was in Fiji.
Samoa. Yep.
We're neighbors, basically.
Yes, we were.
I would be curious to hear, because obviously it was some years ago.
It was.
I'd be curious to hear like how that experience of living and working in a foreign country, like, shaped your worldview,
Oh, it did.
et cetera. Because I think a lot of people kind of know about it, but they don't know how it really manifests itself.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear your story.
Yeah, so I was right out of college when I went, I'm sorry. He asked about my Peace Corps volunteer experience and how it has shaped my worldview. Right? So was right out of college. I served from 97 to 99. So right out of college, I served as a Peace Corps volunteer. And I call them my dog years. Like every year is like 7 years of like maturity and like perspective and all of these different things. Because it was hard. But it was the best thing that I ever did for myself was to go and serve as a volunteer. My first degree was in neuroscience, actually. So I got a bachelor's degree in neuroscience. And that basically prepares you to either go to medical school, which I didn't want to do, or get your PhD. I was going to get my PhD in neuroscience. So I had 2 applications in front of me. One was the PhD application and one was the Peace Corps application, and only one of them got filled out, right? Much to my professor's like anger and chagrin, because not a lot of women in 97 were going to get their PhD in neuroscience. So I did, HIV/AIDS, reproductive health education, and that solidified that I wanted to serve in healthcare. And I knew that I wanted to be in public health, and I knew I wanted to have a broader impact when I came back to the United States. So it really shaped where I went. So then I got my degrees, my master's in nursing and my master's in public health from Johns Hopkins University with a Peace Corps fellowship. Because, thank you. And that has really pushed me my entire career to really focus on public health, population health management, and I say this all the time, but how, the medicine we give people, the procedures that we do, it's about this much of how healthy you are. It is really about housing policy. It is about school education policy. It's about environmental policy, the air we breathe, the water we drink. It's about making sure that people can make a living wage to actually put food on their table. That is like 80% of how healthy people are. And that's what I've really tried to focus on for most of my career.
The health care, the Affordable Care Act, they could call it Obamacare to put it down. What are you thinking about, or are you guys doing something about it? There's only 4 states in our whole union, the 50 states, only 4 states that are actually helping subsidize this mess. I was wondering, since Wisconsin is doing so well, so far in the green, is Wisconsin thinking about, or you're thinking about subsidizing?
So we would if we didn't have a Republican-led legislature. There is not a snowball's chance that we would be able to use any of the surplus we have to be able to subsidize folks on the exchange. And that bothers me immensely because I don't care if you have Medicare right now, if you have private insurance, anything else. When those premiums have expired, people are going to take themselves off because they cannot afford it. All of our costs are going to go up. All of them are going to go up. And it's going to hit rural Wisconsin much harder than it's going to hit suburban and urban Wisconsin. One of the things that I'd like to be able to do as governor is to expand Medicaid. We're only one of 10 states that has an expanded Medicaid. Thank you.
Yes, that's the right thing, yeah.
But and that can be it's the right thing to do, regardless of whether or not how the dollars fall out right now because of what they've done within the federal government. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge for Wisconsin to do it. It's still the right thing to do to make sure that we cover people. Secondly, we are one of 2 states, be even more embarrassed, that does not cover women for 12 months postpartum. 2, us in Arkansas. Wow. And I think Arkansas is like really trying to work on it. So we could be the last state. Isn't that embarrassing? It's embarrassing, right, that we have not done that. Because anybody here who has ever had a child, right, knows that, like, there's a lot that happens in that year after you have that baby, and you can't just manage it within 6 weeks. Like, that's just, it's too much. And that is just, it's good for mom, it's good for baby, it's good for families. Let's just get this done. And if you want to be angry about it, it passed in the Senate with 1 no vote. And the number of co-sponsors on the bill in the Assembly, if they would have all voted yes, it would have passed in the Assembly. Robin Vos refused to bring it to the floor for a vote. 1 man. One man refused to bring it to the floor for a vote. So we're going to have to work on things, and I really, what kills me is that a lot of people on the exchange are small business owners. These are people who are the lifeblood of Wisconsin. The vast majority of businesses in the state of Wisconsin are small business owners, and they're almost, so many of them are on the exchange, and so they're looking at what they can do to provide health care, and they just can't make the numbers work. They just can't. And so you're going to see people who are coming off of the exchange and not having any health insurance at all. And I was a nurse pre-Affordable Care Act and after Affordable Care Act. And the difference in that was enormous. I can tell you a story. There was a woman who came in, this is pre-Affordable Care Act, 63 years old, 2 years before Medicare. And this was during a recession. She got laid off from her job. She was working within the financial industry, but not at a high-level job. Could not afford COBRA. So she was all off of her medications and coming in with chest pain to our public health clinic. So we had to send her to the hospital. She ends up with surgery. She ends up with stents being placed. And because of how expensive it was, she had to file for bankruptcy. And the vast majority of personal bankruptcies in the United States are in the wake of large medical bills, right? And she was working in the financial industry, so she couldn't necessarily go with a bankruptcy on her record, being able to pass a background check. It was a huge issue for her. And this woman, she met her social obligation, right? She met it. She was working her entire life, 2 years before Medicare. And this is what we do. We do not provide a safety net for somebody who has met their social obligation to our society. That is just so frustrating for me. Yes, ma'am.
I share your rural Wisconsin roots. I grew up on a small dairy farm too.
Oh, good.
So often our elections in Wisconsin are about Dane County and Milwaukee County. What are your thoughts about reaching out to the rural voter?
I think we have basically ceded rural ground to Republicans. We basically said, well, there's not as many voters there, whatever. But if you can get the margins in these rural spaces, and I think we are ripe for doing that, given some of the policies that the Trump administration is putting forward, whether it's tariff policy, the healthcare policy. And I know we talk about farmers, which again is important within the state of Wisconsin, but the number one employer in rural spaces, healthcare. Yeah. Healthcare. So that's huge, right? And so we have to be making that argument directly to folks. And I'm unwilling to cede that space. We are going to go everywhere, no matter how small, no matter how red, and we're going to make our argument. And there are people who are not going to agree with me, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. I have an uncle in St. Croix Falls. He loves me. He might be a little bit on the other side of things, but I invited him. He's a farmer, longtime farmer, right? He's in his 70s now. I invited him to my inauguration, and Governor Evers spoke, and I spoke, and he comes to me later, and he says, Sarah, I have to tell you, we don't hear these messages where I'm at. I've never heard this. And I just kind of like broke my heart that we have basically ceded that ground and just said, okay, don't worry about it. We're not even going to do those messages. And I will tell you, we've got several candidates in Milwaukee, several candidates in Dane County. They're going to have that name ID. But I have on purpose gone to all 72 counties as lieutenant governor. But I have tried very hard with our county parties. When you ask me to come, I come.
You've been here.
Yes, I try very hard. Because you guys are doing the hard work, man. It is hard to do this work, especially when, if you feel like you're in a redder community. It's really challenging to do that work. So thank you guys for everything that you do, because it really does make a difference. It really, really does. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to follow up with, just to support your comment, because the county that I grew up in, I don't think very many, they don't have almost limited involvement with the Democratic Party, or the Democratic Party's limited involvement
right.
there.
Mm-hmm.
And that nobody hardly ever shows up there. And
yep.
so I think that is a whole big part of it. showing up.
Just showing up, literally just showing up. And I think we've got some examples. I think Tammy Baldwin shows up.
Oh, yeah.
I think she does. I think Tammy Baldwin shows up. And, she's pragmatic. She puts her nose down, and she just gets stuff done. And that is the type of leader that I would like to be. I don't need to be on these fancy shows, right? I don't need any of that. I would prefer not to, actually. But just, put your head down and get to work. And I think that's what people are looking for, Go ahead.
Columbia County,
Yes, ma'am.
a lot of our population is rural.
Yeah.
Doing doors out in the country is.
It's really hard. I know. Yeah.
I want to ask you to come up with a postcard message that we could
Sure.
put onto postcards and mail out.
Yeah.
Because I really think it makes a difference.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've talked to my team about too is we tend to have signs late. I don't know why. Like big signs late. I know it's frustrating. You can buy them on my website right now if you want one, by the way. Anyway, but in urban spaces and suburban spaces, I don't know that the signs on the lawn matter that much, but I do think they matter in rural spaces. I do. And so I've talked to my team about making sure that we have, that we have a strategy for signs for rural spaces, that we do them early, that they're out there. My godmother lives on a farm right outside West Salem, Wisconsin, and she's like, where is it? I want it right now. She wants like the biggest thing you've ever seen. She's like, I'm right on the freeway. I want to stick it there. So she's waiting, Amy. So like construct something that she can put on her lawn. I know. But wintertime is hard though for signs because it's like, they get all messed up and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, but we will have signs early. And you can get it now. It's just on the website. So yeah.
So I'm going to ask, are you taking lists of names for people willing to circulate nomination signatures in April?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there are people here who would probably sign up.
Yeah, and we'll have them at each county office too, that when people come in. But yeah, absolutely. If people are willing to circulate nomination papers in April, that would be great.
I can take one to my Indivisible group.
Very good. Thank you. We'll sign up. Sign up. Yeah, so nomination papers are in April, primaries in August, and then it is a sprint to the general, which is going to be hard, right? Because now we all know it's Tom Tiffany. So he's just going to get zillions of dollars. I know, he already has. I know. But the Musks of the world are going to be putting in all sorts of dark money here and there. I mean, that's going to happen, right? So it's and that's what was, most Democrats have, a lot more like people who donate, but smaller amounts. So it's more challenging to be able to get to that level. But yeah.
One of my representatives is Derek Van Orden.
I'm so sorry.
And Derek Van Orden is one of the most unlikable, miserable people to try and communicate with. Seriously.
Really?
His responses to your emails are offensive, and I just responded to him yesterday, and I said, Derek, I'm going to tell you right now, for each lie you tell, I'm going to give Rebecca Cook $100.
You're going to be broke.
No, I won't be.
Yeah, I know. Maybe. I mean, that man lies a lot. I know. There were 12 different lies in this letter alone.
It was just lie, and I was like,
oh my God. I know. That is one that we're really excited about flipping. That and District 1. Yes, so Style down by Racine, kind of Kenosha area. Hopefully we'll be able to do that. And we just need people to show up, get excited, and be able to do what we need to do. And I'm seeing that all over the state. People are excited. People are ready. And I think we can take some leadership from Minneapolis. I have just been so proud of the people there and what they've been doing, honestly. And I don't know if there are any other nurses in the room, but it gutted me when I found out that he was a nurse, because I know exactly what he would have done if an ICE agent would have been hurt.
Yeah.
Because it's exactly what I would have done, right? I would have done something, you know, because that's what you do as clinicians. And so it just gutted me that he was a nurse, yeah.
I would agree with the battle of the signs in rural Wisconsin, going up to Monroe County, where I have a cousin lived last summer. The battle of the signs on the highway was going up into Lawrence. But one thing I don't understand a lot about, and maybe this is something that you could talk about, the data centers, like Jack County, I just heard on the news said no data center, or it was out here somewhere in DeForest. So what is your strategy for that? Because that's really bothering a lot of the rural
It is, yeah.
areas, and schools and school fundings and losing their schools, but yet they continue to vote for Republican Assembly and Senate. So
I know.
making a distinguishing
Right. Yeah.
It's about those two things in the rural
Okay,
area.
so first of all, the data centers, what I have said is that this needs to be a open conversation with the community, that the community wants to have something like that there. So like the Foxconn site, that made sense, right? Because they didn't have anything else on that land. There's another one coming in, or they think they might be coming in, that is on land that is unusable right now. And that the data center folks want to come in and be able to fix the land, clean it up, and then be able to put a data center on there. Those kinds of things make sense to me. So having like a yes or a no, a black or a white, I don't want to say that because it's different for every community. But here's what we need to do statewide. And to make sure that there are restrictions statewide, is that any energy use that these data centers are pulling cannot be borne on the backs of taxpayers. Cannot. And not only that, but they have to invest in Wisconsin. Like that has to be contractually on the front end, investing in renewables, investing in our infrastructure, because we do have an aging energy infrastructure. You want to come in here, you want to be able to build this is a two-way street. We have to get something out of it as well. Right? And in terms of water usage, that has to be absolutely transparent, how they are using water, how much water they are using it. If they're pulling it out and they are putting it back into the environment, it has to be in the same exact manner that they pulled it out. We're talking quality and temperature, right? Because we know what happens when the temperature lifts in our lakes. We saw that this summer. It gets these toxic algae blooms, right? Huge, again, I said, huge outdoor tourism economy that we have in Wisconsin. We have got to protect that. And so I think if those things are met, then this would be a community decision to be able to do that. And it's not going to be right for every community. It's not. But I'm not for a moratorium because I think we need to have a nuanced conversation about it. And I know that's hard. Sometimes nuanced conversations are hard. But if we put guidelines out at the state level, this is the minimum that you have to do. Communities can make it higher, right? They can do what they want to do. They can say, absolutely no way. We do not want a data center in this community at all. That's perfect, fine. But then, then we are putting on, and when you have data centers, you have to meet these minimum criteria and make sure they're high enough that it makes sense that we are protecting consumers and that we are protecting the environment. Sure. Any other questions?
One final thing.
Yes, sir.
Columbia County has our county fair on July 29th to August 2nd, somewhere in there. I would like to invite you to come to our booth.
Oh, that would be fun.
At some point.
My birthday is July 25th.
Okay.
I'll be 51. I turned 50 this year. I actually announced my my campaign. Thank you. You're my favorite person now. She just called me a puppy. I announced my campaign on my 50th birthday. So like, what a way to like kick open the doors to your 50s, right? Just go ahead and go. But yeah, that would be fun. I'm not allowed to make my own schedule. I can already see Amy's eyes looking at me over this because they always have something cooking and I'm not allowed to do it. I think I did it once and I got yelled at like pretty significantly by my staff. Go ahead.
Sarah, just a shameless plug.
Yes.
Amy has you scheduled for our candidate forum on
Yay.
April 11th.
Awesome.
With the other
Yes.
Democratic gubernatorial candidates. We have 5 confirmed yeses and we're awaiting 3, but it's going to be here, April 11th.
Fun.
Our general membership meeting.
Yeah.
9 to noon, 9:30, somewhere in there we
Is
get
that the
started.
second Saturday in April?
Yes.
I believe it is, Ms. Mary Ellen. The second Saturday in April. Thank you for pointing that out.
Very good.
Thank you for agreeing to be
Jim,
here.
while you're at it, mention the dinner, which is following that, right?
Oh, is that a fundraiser?
It is a fundraiser.
Okay.
You are cordially invited to join us on April 25th
Look at
at the
that.
Civic Hall in Poignant.
I love
We are
that.
going to have a wonderful speaker, the State Senate Majority Leader from Minnesota.
Oh,
Is going to be joining
good.
us and
That's
talking
amazing.
about a first-person account of what life has been like over.
Yeah, I will tell you, Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan is a good friend, and she lives in Minneapolis, and she's like, she says, you can't even describe what it's like. Like, the pictures don't do it justice, what's happening doesn't do it justice. It is truly an occupation. And it's been so hard for the folks in Minneapolis, and that's why I want to make sure that we prepare ourselves here. We need to be proactively preparing for what's going to happen, because he said he's de-escalating. What I'm hearing is nothing has changed.
No.
Nothing has changed. Still these roving patrols, pulling people over indiscriminately, citizen or not, just by the color of their skin. I will tell you one more story before I go, because I do think it's also heartbreaking and what it says about what's happening right now. So when when Donald Trump won the second time, I told my husband to put his passport card in his wallet. And I'm the lieutenant governor of the state of Wisconsin, right? And I have one of the biggest microphones in the state, and it worried me enough that I wanted him to put his passport card in his wallet. And then I was in Appleton at one of these listening sessions, and there was a gentleman there, I believe he was of Indian descent. He's wearing a suit, and he's asking me, pulls out his passport, and he says, why do I have to carry this with me everywhere? And then there were 2 or 3 other people in that room who were also a shade of brown. They all pulled out their passports. And it was just, I was like, oh, this is what you have instilled in our black and brown communities, and how scary that is, right? I mean, that was so heartbreaking for me that was something that had happened, and I just was like, it shouldn't happen in the United States. It just shouldn't happen in the United States. So yeah. So, yes, ma'am.
If you want another story, I met my banker the other day, and she's from Syria. Her family's from Syria. They're all naturalized American citizens. Mm-hmm. She told me when it hits Wisconsin, they're going to go to Massachusetts.
Wow.
That they think that that's a better place to be.
Have you heard Ron Johnson is encouraging ICE to come to Wisconsin, and they've booked blocks of hotel rooms that look just like what was happening in Minnesota. That just came out today or late yesterday.
Yeah. So we cannot live in fear, is what I would say. This is what we have to do. We have to be ready, and we have to be prepared. And we have to make sure that we've got our organizations together so that we can fight back against this, like Minneapolis has fought back against it, because protesting does work, and going to the streets does work. And talking to community organizations, they are gearing up, they're getting ready. And so just make sure you're reaching out to organizations to see how you can help, how you can participate. You don't always have to be on the front line. You can do other things. Like in Minneapolis, they were delivering meals and food and supplies to immigrant families who are afraid to leave their homes. So these are some things that we can do as a community. And I think we've seen what the example is in Minneapolis, and we can go ahead and replicate that here if it comes to Wisconsin, but just to be prepared. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, here. Born in Puerto Rico. Okay. Citizen since I was born. I went to the Social Security office to change some things. They said they wouldn't talk to me unless I showed them this, which is complete nonsense. Because I told them, how about the rest of the Americans? Are they have to show them?
No.
A white man came after me and she dealt with him. He didn't have to show one of these. So that makes you think that we as Latinos, we could live anytime we want to.
Yeah.
And if we do, the United States of America will get 12% of our money from the federal tax. The rest of it be gone with us.
Yep.
And that will hurt the country. We don't want to do it. We
I
love
know.
this country.
I know.
I went to the Marines. I love this country. I was willing to die for it. But it's
I'm
happening.
so sorry. This is what I am seeing, and I am so sorry that you have to carry that with you, and I'm so sorry that they treated you that way. And it is so personal for me. It just really is, because, you know, my whole family's, I'm not Latina, I'm Norwegian and German. I grew up on lefse and lutefisk, by the way. I recommend the lefse, not the lutefisk.
Exactly.
But I learned, I was married to a man from Mexico. His family doesn't speak very much English, and so I made sure that I spoke Spanish, right? And my kids speak Spanish because I thought it was important. And so we could be out in the world speaking Spanish. Yeah. So then,
Right.
who's the target, right? I mean, that could be any one of us. And so I'm,
Don't let them hear you.
oh, I'm going to do it anyway. Let him do it. Let him try. Literally. But yeah. But thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you guys for listening to me. I hope I can earn your vote and your support in August and then November. But thank you for the work that you guys do. I know it is a labor of love and it's difficult, but it is so worth it. So thank you.
Thank you.